Hello, and thank you for choosing to watch this video. This is number 16 in the What If Fantasy Model Kit Box series. These videos imagine some model kits that would have been great to see on the shelves of my local BTs in the 1970s. The Jerry Anderson shows were made here in Britain, and model kits seem like a no-brainer, and as Airfix is a UK company, that just seemed like the perfect marriage. Thunderbirds is the most famous of the shows and featured a vast array of aircraft, spaceships, and vehicles. One of the most popular episodes is End of the Road, which features this incredible looking explosives tractor, which is used for demolition of rural areas. In the story, Bob Gray and Eddie Houseman have a private company that is building a road through this mountain area. Eddie is in command of the explosives tractor, and using these sort of mortars on the back, they make a cutting through the mountain range. This is one of the best looking vehicles in any of the Anderson series. I think it just looks great, and on screen it just looks completely believable. It's just so cool looking. It's just fantastic. It would be great in a 32nd scale kit. It'd probably be a little over a foot long, maybe 14 inches. Figures of Eddie and the crew inside. There were two other people who would drive and fire the explosives. Bright orange plastic. The mortar sort of ramp at the back would be posable. Just great. It's just a great, great looking machine. Also in the episode is the giant road laying machine, the road layer. This is the other half of the Gray and Houseman construction company. So while Eddie's off creating the path for the road, this thing drives along slowly, it clears debris out of the way, and it lays down, sort of smoldering hot tarmac out of the back, and even paints the white lines for the lanes of traffic in the road. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's beautifully realized on screen. It just looks absolutely believable. This is a classic Thunderbirds machine, and when people think of the show, they often think of sort of massive, futuristic machines performing everyday tasks with incredible automation and on a giant scale. And this definitely sort of checks all the boxes. Whenever I watch this episode, it always puts a smile on my face. It's a pure genius. In real life, I mean, this thing is massive. And in 1/4/4 scale, it would be a large kit, probably around 16 inches long, I think. I put here that it would come with the helijet and an in-scale explosives tractor, both of which were carried on board. The helijet launches from the top, as you see in the picture here, and the explosives tractor was carried in the front, which would open up and allow it to drive out. This was a challenging piece of artwork, not only because this thing is just so detailed. It's such a complex shape, and it's filthy and grimy and looks like it works. I mean, it's great fun to paint, but a lot of work. And it was a bit challenging because I wanted to show it from a pleasing angle. You always do. You always want to sort of show off whatever it is that you're presenting here, but also sort of show its functionality. And because the road laying stuff is all at the back, you would sort of, you could see all that if you had an angle from the back, but that kind of seems wrong. Similarly, I could have shown that the front does open up with the explosive tractor inside, but then that would have sort of hidden a bit of the vehicle, which didn't sort of seem right, and probably put more emphasis on the explosives tractor rather than on the road layer itself. So I came up with this angle, which is sort of like a high angle looking down, so you can see the road. It's also a pretty nice sort of 3/4-ish angle on the thing itself. And you see the helijet, and then if you read the little text, it says you also get the explosives tractor. There was another road layer that appeared briefly in the episode Atlantic Inferno, and that one is yellow. So it's obviously like a different company has bought one of these things and is using it, which I think is one of those really nice bits of continuity that you see quite a lot of in Thunderbirds, where there's a lot of the sort of common technology seen around the world. Just makes the whole world seem a lot bigger and more believable. This kit would include a 1/44 scale explosives tractor, and it seems only right and proper that this would also be available by itself in a blister pack. Like, I imagined these sort of Series 1 blister pack, smaller kits for sort of pod vehicles and maybe some other things. Because a lot of this stuff, I mean, this would be a big, expensive, high series kit. So with a 1/4 blister pack of the explosives tractor, you could also get the transmitter truck, which is the same chassis, same body work, but it has a radar dish, transmitter dish arrangement at the back. This is from the episode Sun Probe, and this rescue attempt, which is carried out by Virgil and Brains from Thunderbird 2 in the freezing cold of the Himalayan mountains to save this rocket from the heat of the sun in outer space. I mean, it's just a great juxtaposition, which they play off a couple of times in the story. It's excellent episode, and this is a really nice looking truck. There is a third version that you see of this in Security Hazard. Again, it's the same vehicle, same model, but has a big fire extinguisher on the back. You see that very briefly in Security Hazard. So another probably commercially available vehicle that the International Rescue make use of. This is another episode that's very, very highly regarded. Always comes in people's sort of top 10 favorite episodes when people do those kind of lists. The Sun Probe rocket is specially designed to get a fly as close to the sun as it needs to launch this probe and gather matter that can then be analyzed. A great sci-fi idea, great jeopardy comes out of it. The rocket looks great. I mean, it's kind of very colorful. Thunderbirds didn't shy away from having bright colors. I think still at that time of, hey, it's color TV. Let's sort of make the most of it. And so there definitely is a sort of Thunderbirds look in terms of the variety of colors you see on these things. It's a two-stage rocket. The front section detaches, and that's the piece that collects the fragments of the sun. And that would probably be done with the same sort of bayonet joint that the Saturn V kit had. The Saturn V, incidentally, just to give you an idea, the Saturn V is, I believe, 363 feet tall. And the Sun Probe, I worked out, is 336 feet. So, 30 feet smaller in 1/4 scale. So we stand over a little over 2 feet tall. So big kit, skinny, tall and thin, but it'd be great to have it in scale with Thunderbird 3. White plastic, silver plastic would be great. There isn't a lot of Thunderbirds that takes place in outer space. There's a spy satellite that you see in an episode called Cry Wolf, and although it's a crucial part of the plot, it doesn't really see any action. You're led to believe it's an automatic satellite that's just, it's a spy satellite, which is kind of an interesting story idea for Thunderbird. But this is just a cool thing with solar panels, so it looks like it can stay up there forever. Very simple, very basic, unassuming design, but it's effective. Part of the reason I put it as an Airfix kit is because this model in the making of the show was customized into the KLA satellite, the guest star vehicle in the episode Ricochet. And that looks great. The Ricochet ship is very memorable and just looks cool, and you wouldn't think for a minute that it was sort of a hand-me-down, made out of this thing. So given that many of the parts, if you made a model kit, would be the same, I thought, well, you'd want a kit of the Ricochet ship, and they may just kind of make this sort of spy satellite because it would be kind of easy to do. Probably wouldn't be a huge seller, but it'd be a decent little kit. So in that episode, I mentioned there's espionage, and the Hood gets involved in trying to steal some of that spy information. And you see him driving around a lot in the Australian outback in this sort of 6-wheel Jeep. Looks like it can cover any terrain. And this is the same body as the half-track that was seen in The Uninvited and The Mighty Atom. And maybe it was made by Jeep, and it's sort of a body shell that basically worked. The driving area is the same, and again looks totally like, there'd be a sort of a higher speed version than the sort of half track, more powerful but slower version. It's in 32nd scale, but that was a scale that Airfix did. So trying to be true to that aspect, not 24th and not 35th for the AFVs. So for my sort of fantasy kits, if done by Airfix, I've assumed for this sort of size of vehicle, 32nd is the way to go. That way they'd be in scale with bigger vehicles and cars. I think in some areas it's called the Global Carrier, but to me it's just a 6-wheel Jeep, and there's a drawing by Derek Meddings that I think calls it the Desert Jeep. One of the episodes that the half-track appears in is Desperate Intruder, where International Rescue assist in this sort of treasure hunt. And I just love the idea that they use a commercially available vehicle, even though they're kind of somewhat incognito anyway. You can just imagine them like, we'll use one of those things. Those are great. That's perfect. They're not snobby. International Rescue aren't snobby about their stuff. And again, just a great piece of sort of continuity and what they call world building these days. Something I noticed in looking at this, there's 2 caravans which look like they have between them sort of 5 compartments, and it did make me wonder. I wonder if that was sort of to allow for one room for each of the 5 sons, and even looking at the blinds on the windows, which are all different colors. It's kind of like, okay, they're all individual rooms, And I can't really tell. I want to think the individual colored blinds match either the color of the respective Thunderbirds or the sashes on their uniforms or something. I just think that would have been really fun if they'd done that. I don't know. You can't really tell. If anyone knows, that would be really interesting. I would have put this in a blister pack, although with the caravans it's too big, so I put it in one of those very small, skinny Series 1 boxes that they used to have. Back in the day, boxes were a lot smaller. This would probably be in white plastic to sort of favor the caravans. So again, I mentioned The Uninvited, where Thunderbird 1 is attacked by these fighter aircraft, which in the story we later discover are from this civilization that are sort of living in the lost pyramid of Commander D's. And in the episode you see inside it, and it's great. It's this ancient pyramid covered in hieroglyphics and all that kind of stuff. And yet it's jam-packed with super high-tech equipment, and there's a scene where you see sort of 3 of these fighters all sort of like lined up, ready to launch in this kind of, super technological area. So that's what I wanted to depict here on this box. I was trying to avoid as much as possible just doing aeroplanes in flight, although, you want to see them at that great angle in flight. I feel like there've been a number of those. So I was trying to come up with some ideas that would just be a little different, a little more eye-catching. These are cool. These are cool-looking planes. The original VFX model was based off of Starfighter F-104. You can see more information on that in the kit bashing videos elsewhere on the channel. Another fighter plane that appears in one episode only is what I've called the enemy fighter. These are seen in the episode The Cham Cham when they attack the RTL-2 rocket transporter, and they just sort of explain them as enemy aircraft with strange oval markings, sort of an unnamed country or regime. And because a lot of that episode takes place sort of in the Alps, I put these aircraft sort of flying over mountains again, just to try and make it a little more of an interesting box top. Cool looking planes. This would be great, kind of like in the army green plastic. That'd just be neat to see an aircraft, to open a box and see aircraft kit parts in that sort of green. I don't think there was I don't recall ever seeing an Airfix kit in that color. They were either kind of black or white or gray or silver or maybe bright red if it was like the Comet Racer or something. But that army green, which is kind of what these things look like, would be really fun. The air sea rescue planes, these look great, I think. And again, they're based on the F-104 Starfighter. And you see them quite a bit in Operation Crash Dive looking for a missing Firefly airliner. So they kit bash this thing together just to make this really kind of like futuristic, yet recognizable. I mean, I think that was one of the strengths of a lot of the designs in the show, was the things were sort of recognizable as a jet plane or a, whatever, yet were futuristic as well. Great stuff. And man, this should be in yellow plastic, bright yellow plastic. How fun would that be? In 72nd scale, so you could put it alongside lots of other just normal, regular aircraft. Copter Watchdog is a rarity in Thunderbirds in that it is a helicopter. And this was used by the command team to supervise and observe the Sidewinder test in Africa. So I wanted to come up with some artwork that really kind of helped to tell that story. So I kind of came up with this idea that it's sort of like high above, sort of circling around to sort of get another look. And you can kind of see the Sidewinder down there. I haven't made a big deal of it, but you can kind of see the path of where it's been tearing up the jungle and across the river. And the first 5 minutes of this episode are just some of the best TV you will ever see. Just the music and the editing and everything, and just absolutely fantastic. And and Copter Watchdogs, it's funny looking. It's not something that would win any beauty contests, but it's a cool thing, and it is a helicopter, which does make it a rarity. As a child, I think, I'd seen the Airfix did a twin rotor Bristol Belvedere helicopter, and I thought, oh, that's what Copter Watchdog is. It isn't. It is an original design, heavily based off of a CH-46 helicopter, or more specifically, a toy. I'm putting together another kit bashing, even more Thunderbirds kit bashing video, and there's quite a bit in that about Copter Watchdog, so look out for that if you are interested. There's an episode called Martian Invasion, which actually has nothing to do with outer space, but is about these guys making, kind of a classic 1950s sci-fi B-movie about a Martian invasion. And in the story, the Hood sabotages it all to create a situation where international rescue will have to come out. 2 of the actors are sort of trapped in this cave that's filling up with water, and international rescue arrive. and they deploy this thing, the drilling and crushing excavator, which is, like a monster. It's a really formidable looking thing, and it's great seeing it in action. It sort of cuts into the big rock fall that's kind of come down and crushes the boulders into dust, which it kind of like somehow inside of it processes it and just spurts all this dust through these exhausts out the back. And then it has a drill on the front that creates a little borehole into the cave. And then the guys kind of are swept out through the hole. I mean, it's just a joy. It's classic Thunderbirds. It's very similar in appearance to the restraining outfit that you see in the Dutch assignment. And I think I've read that the effects for the Martian invasion were some of the last to be done for the series. So I'm guessing that this was converted from the restraining outfit rather than vice versa. But you can see it's really, a lot of it is, it's the same model, a lot of it, and sort of customized. But, great looking machine. And again, part of the sort of blister pack series. And it'd be probably with all the contraption on the front, probably about 4 inches long. The size of like, 76 scale tank, that sort of model. A recurring vehicle, although just a couple of times, was the Firefly, which is International Rescue's front line vehicle for dealing with large fires. It's got this like really powerful cannon that can sort of demolish any rubble that's in the way and to blow out an oil fire, to just snuff it out. It's just a really great looking, really tough looking machine. And again, this would be in a 32nd scale because it's one of the recurring machines, and also a 1/4 scale one to be in scale with Thunderbird 2. Most of the time, there would be a special pod vehicle for the mission. Fortunately designed for these tasks at hand. One of the most unusual is the monobrake. It's smaller than a lot of the vehicles, and it's sort of open top and low so that it can travel safely beneath a monorail train. Monorails and Thunderbirds are hung from a track above, and this could easily drive along the ground with a train above and be perfectly safe. But it's interesting because you never actually see its special function. You only see it as a way for Virgil and Gordon to sort of get into the tunnels. You can see that it has a sort of an articulated arm that looks like it would attach to the rail, but it's never discussed what it is actually intended to do. In one of the Thunderbird sort of cutaway books, they suggest that the arm attaches to the rail and then lifts the car up clear of the ground, and then a jet motor sort of pushes along at speed. There is a sort of exhaust down the middle of the machine that you can kind of see, but that scenario doesn't really seem too likely for me. Like I kind of mentioned them actually doing that in the show. It would look kind of funny, I think. So I wondered, so in the plot of the episode, Dr. Godber and his henchman Roach are able to stop the train from their sort of hideout, which suggests that the train gets its power from the track. And I can imagine the monobrake's arm could be used as a means to sort of similarly, break the circuit or otherwise send some sort of, power into the track to sort of short it out and stop or break the train. And this is just pure speculation on my part. All we know is that it's small and low and can drive underneath the track. That's because that's all we see it do. This would be a nice little model. Again, in 32nd scale, it would be, maybe 5 inches long or something. It'd be pretty small. But if you've got figures of Virgil and Gordon and the arm was sort of posable, it'd be a fun kit. From one of the smallest vehicles to be seen in Thunderbirds to probably the biggest, the crab logger is nothing short of just magnificent. And it's a giant machine. It drives through forest and it has a big chainsaw that kind of cuts down trees, and then these claws grab those trees, put it into this big sort of open maw at the front where they're all kind of like chopped up and ground up. And then it goes through the machine, processed and turned into wood pulp that it then dispenses automatically out the back of the vehicle in barrels that are then picked up in scheduled transporters that drive up and take it away. It all works on a computer program. It gets into trouble because the two people in control of it pass out. And it just carries on its way, just through the forest, knocking things down, crashes through this town, which is just, it's amazing. Everything about it just screams big and powerful and just magnificent. It is just fantastic, the crab logger. So this kit would be 1/4 scale, about 2.5 feet long, probably including the claws sticking out the front. The whole body would be about 27 inches. The back section of it is the same sort of chassis as the road laying machine. So hey, Epix, if you're watching, there's a lot of shared parts that you can make use of there. And again, who knows, in the world of Thunderbirds, maybe it's meant to be part of that same chassis. But it's huge. I mean, it's 326 feet long, I think. I mean, it's absolutely massive. And there's some great shots where you see the guys getting on board and their heads don't even come up to the axle of the wheel. I mean, it's just huge. It would be a super kit. I think it'd be really fun if those massive wheels were done in the sort of black vinyl rubber the big super kit plane wheels were done in, just to kind of make it a bit more special. And the arms would be posable and the ramp at the back would open to dispense the wood pulp. And I put here that you would get both one of those transporter trucks in 1/4/4 scale and also the super-on tankers that have to kind of keep it supplied with fuel for the processing plant, otherwise it'll kind of get jammed up. In one of the other videos there's kits of those in 72nd scale because it's very cool looking. This was another illustration that was a little tricky to kind of come up with. In the show, you never see the whole thing at one time. You either see the front of it or the whole thing sort of drives past the camera. So I wanted to make sure you could see all of it and still have it be big and impressive, like it's going through the forest and really doing its thing. It's tough to get the size and still show all of it, which you kind of want to do on the box. It's an opportunity to actually show it in all its glory. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. Thanks very much for watching. It's so much fun painting these Jerry Anderson worlds. And again, I think because there's so much beautiful model work and there's so many really interesting scenes, you know, if there were kits of these things, you could make dioramas out of them. Just, you know, so much stuff. You're making models of models. So you're really kind of, you're right there. You know, you're right there with it, sort of helping to embellish that world. We can all dream. But anyway, thanks for watching. There'll be another video coming shortly. There's a video part 3 or 4, I think, of the sort of kit bashing. Just finishing up the research on a lot of that now. So yeah, anyway, check out those videos. Please share this with your friends. Please like, subscribe, check out the website, and please feel free to comment, ask questions, and thanks very much for watching, and see you soon. Bye-bye.